Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Stacy Sloan with Keller Williams Elite Realty, proudly serving the Durham and Triangle area for 25 years. Call Stacy at 919-972-1180. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by Rachel Z with Rachel Z Real Estate Team Realty. From the Triangle to the Triad, call Rachel Z at 919-323-6068. All right, technical difficulties are done. Here we are on another episode of the Orange Hammer Podcast. Today, I've got Jason Kruger. Jason, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
Good. Thanks for having me, Corbett.
Yeah, you were the first guest who a third-party recruiting person contacted me and said, we want this guy to come on your podcast.
Good. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, take it away. I mean, what do you do, and how do you know that person, and what do you got to share with us?
Well, it means you must be doing something well with the podcast. You must be getting some good numbers then.
I mean, I think they're very bad, but everything's relative. My threshold is Joe Rogan, so we're doing really bad by comparison. Yep. But I'll take, as I keep telling people about this podcast, in simplistic form, it's fun, and I'm gonna do it till it's not. So,
Good.
But I'll take the good numbers.
Yeah, I work with a firm. I guess I'm on the podcast train a little bit. I work with a firm that helps position us on podcasts that are aligned with the same industries and the fields that we work with, and the goal is really to kind of get the word out there that and educate the marketplace in this conversation really about construction and the value of finance and accounting in the construction field, because a lot of business owners start with a great idea. We have a great background in construction, but they have to learn in order to be successful long term and to continue to grow and scale and achieve the goals they have. They have to learn other aspects of running a business, right? So everything from not only just the construction side, but marketing, sales, operations, finance, accounting, HR. Everything that goes along with that as your company continues to grow and scale. And so what we do is we work with companies We have a strong focus in the construction space, supporting their finance and accounting arm of their business. So in short form, it's outsourced accounting and CFO advisory. But our goal is to customize that solution at a cost point that makes sense, is scalable, flexible, gets them the good reporting that they need to be able to understand what's happening in their business and to achieve the goals and make the decisions that they need to achieve the goals moving forward. So that's kind of in short what we do. Company is called Signature Analytics.
And how long you been with them?
I started the company in 2008. So before that, I spent about 10 years in the big public accounting world, the big four. Deloitte was the firm that I worked with for a lot of years. Started in 2008 because I knew that there was a need in the small mid-market and for this type of service. A lot of companies in that space don't have either haven't gotten yet built up that sophistication. They can't afford the top talent. They don't need that top talent from a finance and accounting arm on a full-time basis. So there's a big need in that small mid-sized market for companies that want to grow, are looking to scale, and they need the numbers behind that to back that up to support that. Along with some in the simplest form, managing and projecting cash flow, right? Because every business needs to manage cash and needs to know where they're at so they can continue to operate.
So where is the construction, like, I get that you have this accounting background, and I even get that you saw a need for a smaller, I don't want to say smaller as in it's small potatoes, but a need for the smaller guy who needs this service. Where
Yep.
does the construction part come in?
Yeah, we work with a number of companies in the construction field, between contractors, subs, um, in commercial and residential. We work with so we have a team that actually specializes in that construction market. So our company, we have about 75 full-time employees of our company, and we have a division or a team that really focuses in that space, because there's some uniqueness to construction within accounting and finance as opposed to your standard run-of-the-mill business, and a lot of that is jobs, job costing, WIP reporting, understanding the profitability on your jobs, nuances between contracts between the owners, the subcontractors, and so on. So there's a lot of unique aspects to construction as it relates to the finance side of construction, banking relationships. A lot of banks that don't even like to touch construction, some do. So working with our clients through that process, lines of credits. And so we found that we have a pretty good niche in that space. We have a very solid team with significant experience in that space that can offer that to companies that just don't have the need for that full-time expertise.
Right. I guess my question is more, if you're not a former construction person, why would me or John Doe Construction want y'all if you're not
Yep.
former contractors, or you come from finance, which is cool. I've got a CPA. I mean, I don't do my own taxes. But she works with my family. She specializes on, fraud prevention and how to not get audited and be very conservative. So those were the boxes that mattered to me. Check, check, check.
Yep.
But if I was, I'm below the echelon of the small groups that you were. I'm like the one-man band whose needs are so simple that I wouldn't even
Yep.
need y'all's services. Hopefully one day, we'll
Yeah.
scale up there and I'll be having a conversation that's not with the public listening. But
Yep.
but I would want to know, like, okay, you're an accountant, you do accountant stuff, get it, understood. But the claim of we're really good at dealing with construction related stuff without having actually strapped the boots on and
Yep.
done construction stuff, like the dude who founded Home Depot dug trenches. There's at
Yep.
least like some connection there. I don't know who started Lowe's or what he did, but like that's just an
Yep.
example I'm using. So
Yep.
did you work construction or did you just see that there was
Mhm.
a void to be filled and you were already scaling for this small business help?
Yeah. Well, both. I mean, the leader of our team on the construction side spent 15 years in the field or in construction. So everything from being in the field to then ultimately getting a degree in finance and accounting and supporting the company and supporting the companies that he worked for from that perspective. So the leader of our practice in the construction in our construction practice has that hands-on experience. Um, and then, the technical side of accounting and finance is obviously unique, needs a certain skill set, needs a certain uh, college, education, and many years of experience just understanding the financial and accounting side of things. So it's a little bit of both. The other thing I wanted to clarify a little bit is that we don't do tax work. We work with our client's CPA who does the files the tax returns. What we do is we manage the internal accounting, we manage the books, we close the books every month, give you good reporting, so you have visibility into what how profitable you are and how good your jobs are going. Make sure that you're getting the margins that you think you're getting, and are managing cash flow effectively. So to answer your question, it's a little bit of both. I don't have the in-depth, you know, uh, wielding the hammer experience that my colleague does. But that's also why I'm not running our division within construction, because he has that in depth, from everything from being out in the field to ultimately supporting the companies or clients at the controller and CFO level to really provide and support value in that perspective. And the other thing is, what we're also able to do in a lot of cases is really understand the margins and metrics of the client to work with them to increase their margin over time. And that's the key with finance and accounting is how do you become more profitable, right? Especially from construction when if it's cost plus or those other things, you may have set margins, but how can we work with you to increase those margins through different avenues of your business to improve your overall profitability?
So, right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of said you don't have it, but then at the same time, you really do, just because it's not you. I mean, you have a team
Right.
member who's high enough up in the company who has the field experience. And as far as I'm concerned, I need to know that there's somebody on the team
Yep.
who, at least knows when we're using a 2x4 or what the difference between plumbing and framing is,
Yep.
I for example, would never assume my accountant knows what's going on.
Yep.
Um, but then again, my accountant is not really somebody who it sounds like can offer the advice that you can offer. My accountant takes a pile of numbers that I give to her, and then we
Yep.
have a very, very minimal conversation about how to interpret them and be like, oh,
Yeah.
is materials materials or is labor labor? Like, what are and then I'm like, okay, yeah, that you write off, that you don't, and here's some miles, But
Yep.
again, we're talking about or we're talking about me versus your client, which and I'm not upset with where I am in my business, but these are people a notch up. I,
Mhm.
for example, have no employees. I have a
Yep.
Rolodex of subcontractors. They have their own insurances.
Yep.
That, and the third. So it's slightly simpler for me, but so that kind of leads me to another question of what would say I don't know what the correct term is. I don't want to say minimal again to downgrade anybody's small business, but like, do you
Sure.
have you have to be doing
Mhm.
this much money or you have to have this many employees or like where
Yeah.
does a company go from me? Where do we make the turn into needing somebody like you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, I guess there's really no minimum per se. A lot of it is the mindset of where you're looking to go, right? If you're where you are and that's your goal and you like that flexibility and you want that as a career, then that's great. Probably not a great fit for us. If you're looking to continue to grow and scale over time, there might be some conversations to be had. Most of our clients, though, however, are probably about 5 million revenue and up. We have some that are, around that size. We have some that are $100 million contractors, right? That are that have, a number of employees, and they have a lot of, additional sophistication that goes along with that. And so when you have that many employees, you have that cost structure, you have that many jobs going on at once. It's really important to make sure that you have everything in order, so you have visibility into the business, the operations of your business, and the cash flows of your business, so you can ensure that you are turning a profit. You're able to manage the business effectively to for payroll, to cover payroll moving forward. You're not living off of upfront deposits, and then running out of cash later because you took the deposit up front, or you took a milestone payment and thought that you were doing great when in fact you still haven't delivered the work yet. So a lot of those challenges come to play. It's very difficult to manage in your head once you get, once you start to get a little bit larger. And then a lot of companies too, they think, hey, I'm super profitable because I got a big milestone payment. I recorded that as revenue, but I haven't done the work yet. So what's happening is the next month or two, you're going to show a big loss if that's how you recorded your revenue. And so understanding the nuances of what's happening from month to month, from year to year, becomes very critical.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, when you said 5 million as kind of a threshold, I was thinking you were going to say, when you hit 300,000, give us a call.
Yeah.
If I start making $500,000 a year profit, I would be wanting somebody to be double checking my books. So
Yeah.
to run down, so obviously we made it very clear that you are not a CPA. That's fine. You're not filing the taxes, even though there is a close relationship with whoever the CPA is for your client. But the things that you're actually doing, so you're going to be doing the bookkeeping, you're going to be doing the payroll, you're going to be doing, I mean, I guess inside of bookkeeping, we could say things like the accounts receivable, the accounts payable. You're going to be in charge of vendors, which would include all of the material purchasing, and then managing the cash flow, making sure that like you said in a more elegant way, that basically you didn't blow all the money you got for the 3 out of 5 payment, and then you bought a boat, but you didn't build the wall or whatever the hell it
Yep.
might be.
Yep.
And then is there a so that to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to me, that seems like a lot of I'm a company and here's the numbers and I give them to you and you figure them out. Is there a like, let's have an advice conversation
Yeah.
about like, okay, your business is doing fine, but in our opinion, this is you talking, you could be making 12% more, and this is how you make 12% more. Do you
Yeah.
have that kind of
Yeah, that's
program or
the
whatever?
exactly. That's the second step, right? So the first step is having confidence that things are being recorded accurately on a monthly basis. Close the books. Then it's working with management, the owner, CEO, whoever it is, to make sure that we can develop a good financial reporting deck, right? So we have an understanding of the metrics of the business, and so a lot of that goes into if they have multiple jobs going at once, do we have confidence in the profitability metrics associated with each of those jobs? And then it's understanding, okay, what's happening? Why is this job going well? Why is it not? How are we pricing our contract? What types of contracts do we have? How are we pricing our contracts? What's the relationships with our subcontractors if we're a GC? Those types of things, and then analyzing. So it's not only getting the information, but then it's helping them to educating them on what that information means, and then looking forward based on the goals that they have for their business, right? And saying, okay, if you want to be here next year or in 2 years or 3 years, this is the path that we need to go down, and this is how we invest into the business to make that happen. So a lot of that then comes into, okay, how do I make hiring decisions? When do I hire? Who do I hire? Where do I reinvest the profits of my business to achieve that growth that I want? And so a lot of what we do is it's that accounting leadership, it's finance, that financial leadership, and owning that process. So in some cases, we don't do all of the accounting that you described. They may have a lower level bookkeeper, more cost effective. We manage that person, we manage the process, make sure all those things that you listed off get done. And then we uh, uh, develop the reporting, make sure we sit down with the business owners and say, okay, here's what your business looks like from a numbers perspective. And here's how we can, based on where you're going, let's talk about what's happening and what will happen and how we make decisions. And so that's the true value in what we do beyond just, making sure that the numbers are right. I
So
will say
it's
that I am a CPA. We have a number of CPAs on our team. We just don't focus on the tax side of things. It's more on the what I would call the accounting or lower level bookkeeping or financial reporting side.
so to me, it sounds very similar to kind of like a financial advisor who's like everybody has the same tools in terms of like you keep a book this way and but not everybody can interpret all of those tools and the results of all those tools and then optimize them for the specific business that you're working with, or in the financial
Right.
advisor aspect, optimizing it for your specific personal wealth and also your specific personal like retirement needs. It's kind of the same thing, except instead of
Yeah.
personal wealth, it's your business, and instead of retirement needs, it's your business growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to give them we want to give them confidence that they can sleep at night. Right. So the worst thing for a business owner is not having an understanding of cash flow and where cash is going and if the numbers are accurate. Right. Especially as if you grow to a point where it's can't manage the business in your head anymore. You can't look at the bank balance and say, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable. If you get to that point, being able to sleep at night, there's a lot of stress that happens if you have no understanding of what's happening from from a pure accounting, financial, paying bills, receivables, cash flow perspective. So giving them that confidence that they can sleep well at night. The second then is once you have that, giving them confidence that the numbers are accurate, and then it's okay, now the numbers are accurate. Now, what do I want? What are my goals for this business? And using the numbers will allow them to make the decisions to achieve those goals. And now they say, hey, I want to grow. I want to open up a location over here. Okay, what do I have to do to make that happen? Do I have the cash flows to make it happen? Can I make the decision? Can I invest in the company right now? Who should I hire? When should I hire them? All those decisions go into that. And instead of just going in with a wing and a prayer and hoping it works out, you actually now can model that out and say, okay, great. Now I have confidence in that. I can still sleep well at night. I'm making this investment, but I know that the profitability of my business can cover that. And I know that it will pay off, down the line.
And so, okay, so that's very clear, and thank you for clarifying that. As far as logistically for a company, is it like a one-time contract basis? Is it let's have a conversation every quarter? Do you essentially, you know, I guess you don't have to send anybody anywhere with the internet or whatever, but do you essentially have an employee that's basically dealing with this company full time, and how does that company pay you guys? Like, what does that look like for, whoever's listening who might have this company and they're like, you know what, we have an internal bookkeeper and we need everything else, but is it,
Yep.
is it like I asked, is it contract based? Is it a yearly
Yep.
based, or how does that work?
Yeah. So up front, we try to gauge what their goal, obviously what their goals are, where they're at in their business, what they're looking to accomplish. We want to understand what their current team looks like you mentioned. Hey, maybe they have a bookkeeper, right? Okay, so we assess their team, their people, their current processes, what systems they're using, and then what reporting they currently have, and then we work with them to build a plan or a solution or a roadmap based on what they're looking to accomplish. And so usually most our clients, typically we're working with them consistently on a month over month basis, managing and providing owning that accounting and financial side of that business, um, overseeing their bookkeeper and working with their bookkeeper if they have one, or filling in the gaps with our team to perform that work. In most cases, it's a 2 to 3 person people from our team that are being leveraged to support our client. And that's where our value prop is, which is we want to make sure that they have the right people doing the right thing at the right time. So makes no sense to have a CFO or a controller doing bank recs, and it doesn't make sense having the person that does the bank recs, providing that financial CFO advisory support because they don't have that experience either. So let's leverage down our team so it's more cost effective at the lower levels, and then let's leverage the higher levels for that true analysis discussions that we talked about and planning as they move forward.
Do you ever have a company come to you like as they're starting and be like, look, we have a product, we have a company, we are not financial people. We want you to be our financial person and we're starting the company tomorrow. So instead of waiting to see if we're successful and growing and calling you when we hit that $1 million mark or whatever the number is, just be our financial person. We're starting. Does that ever happen?
It does. I guess the challenge is that all new businesses have when they're first getting started is they're how limited are they from a financial resource perspective, right? And so what are the best options for them as they move forward? And the way we're structured, a lot of times, unless they have investor support or financial backing, it's difficult for us to be as effective when they're bootstrapping, getting started. Just from our overall how we're structured, we're not the best solution for a couple $100 a month or $100 a month or a couple $100 a quarter type of solution. So we are a little bit more, I guess that would be a solution that doesn't work within our kind of how we're built and structured.
Yeah, you got to pay for that San Diego
exactly.
rent.
Yeah, I mean, and we want to be honest too. It's we're always looking to provide value, and so what value are you looking for, and what's the cost point that makes sense for your business? And then if it makes sense, it does. If it doesn't, then we know some other individuals that work with companies in that capacity, and we can refer them out to them as well.
Nice. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I guess even as I asked that question, I was like, nobody starts a company and has like extra money for this. Everything is so tight when you're starting, and you don't make a profit for a year if you're lucky. So I guess that does make sense.
It's good to have. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you want to start the foundation from the beginning, but I mean, you know how it is, and when you started your company and when I started mine, you're flying around like by the seat of your pants, right? You're doing everything, right? You're doing this, you're doing that, you're wearing every hat, and that's honestly the people that become and make it successfully, they learn how to do that, and they get to a point where they can then start seeing some results and some positive returns, and then they start to continue to reinvest those back into their business to continue to grow and build that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this, unofficially for over 10 years. I've been licensed for 7 or 8, and this is the first year where I finally was like, I have to hire somebody to do the social media stuff. I just can't. Yeah. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. I don't have the energy. And for a couple $100 a month, I take a bunch of pictures, I send him a giant folder, and he just does everything. And I don't have to worry about it. And it's on auto pay, and it just and work is coming in because of that quicker than I can keep up with it. So it was, it's all part of the plan, but it took me arguably 10 years to get to a spot where I think it was less about being busy and more about understanding that value that it would bring. And that's probably a similar situation with you trying to explain to clients. It's like, no, do you actually will your company fail without your services? No. But do you want your CFO? Do you want your CEO to be doing this crap that's not really CEO stuff, and then he could do other stuff that will really expand and benefit the company and have interesting new meetings instead of trying to figure out a balance sheet? So it might, you gotta weigh that. And that, people in general, I feel like, have a really bad understanding of the fact that time is just as expensive, and peace of mind is just, you mentioned allowing your customers to sleep at night. I have trouble sleeping when I've got 3 jobs the next day. So I could only imagine trying to sleep soundly with a $5 million company and a $700,000 payroll or whatever the hell these numbers are.
Right.
You need help, and
Yeah.
nobody in any field does anything alone.
Right.
You definitely need a team. So
Yeah.
having somebody like you who that's all you do and that's your focus, and not only can we remove this burden, but we can give you an interpretation that doesn't even say yours was wrong. It's just another way to look at it. And then also, let's talk about the future with that interpretation. And oh, by the way, all the prep is ready for whoever you use for taxes.
Yep.
That's a huge part of running a business that every business has to do, and it's the least attractive part of your business.
Yeah.
I started as a carpenter. I don't care about taxes. I just have to pay them so I don't go to jail. But like, guess what? That does not excite me.
Yeah.
Building a custom table for a client, that's where I've got a big old grin on my face. Tax time
Yeah.
is not that time.
Right. We a lot of times I'll tell the owner or the business owner, we wanna free them up, or we want them to be focusing their time and efforts on where they can add the most value to their business and what they do best. And accounting is probably not one of those, right? And so if the business owner is overseeing accounting or and finance, or is doing it, then they're spending a lot of that time and effort where they could be adding more value to the business in other areas. To your point, there's a cost, right? So it's a cost benefit of time versus the cost of having somebody do that. But over time, if you can afford that, or ensure that you can afford that, it does allow you to, it gives you that extra time and allows you to free up to work, as they say, on your business and not in your business, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good way of saying that. I don't think anybody starts a business even really thinking about all of these other parts. Somebody invents something cool and realizing that they could sell 20,000 of them a year. The
Yep.
last thing they're thinking about is, oh, I need to make sure that payroll is checked and suppliers are checked and taxes are done. That none of
Yep.
that's exciting, but sadly,
Right. It has to be done. Yeah.
it just has to be done. Yeah, I mean, if you start pushing these things by the wayside, like I did for the first year of my business,
Yep.
then it comes back to haunt you.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to figure out that this stuff doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You have to just attack it head on. And
Yeah.
once you get some systems in place, obviously my systems are slightly lower key. I'm using a Google Doc homemade Excel spreadsheet with some formulas, but send that
Yep.
to the accountant every year. And so far it's been working out really nicely, but
Yeah.
I'll have to update one day.
Yeah. And our goal too is to shift that mindset too, from accounting and finance as a necessary evil, meaning I got to pay my bills, I got to invoice, I got to collect cash so I can pay my employees if I have them, and then I have to pay taxes at the end of the year, right? Shift that mindset from, okay, yeah, that stuff is taken care of, but how do we leverage this cost center of accounting and finance to drive value to my business through visibility into the numbers, which then can help me make decisions to become more profitable, help me make decisions to improve cash flows, so that I can make decisions to hire additional people, bring on new work, whatever it may be, invest, like you just said, in marketing and sales. That's the true value of the finance arm of a company, if it's used right, versus the mindset of, oh, it's got to get done. It's a necessary evil. Nobody likes it. I don't want to spend money on it because I see no value in it. There's tremendous value if you have the numbers in front of you and you can say, okay, now that I know my numbers and I know my cash position and I know what my cash position will be over the next 6 months, now I have the true power to make the decisions to make those additional investments in my business. Or maybe things aren't going well. What is the process I need to do to get out of this rut or this challenge I'm going through, so that I can have that confidence to move forward as a business?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, very, very well put. You've been doing the podcast circuit, I can tell. um, so I'd love to just dive in. I mean, obviously, there is no such thing as one company identical to another company. They're like snowflakes. So there's no way to, specifically ask you for advice for a roofer who might be listening. But
Yep.
if possible, to, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 general pieces of advice for everybody who's listening, hopefully is either in construction or also is just a homeowner who
Yep.
needs construction information. But for those subs who might be listening or fellow general contractors, what is the, end all be all first line of advice that you would probably be giving to us small time folks so that we can hopefully get to the level where we
Yeah.
need to hire you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm also a business owner, and I started a business too, right? So when I started, it was just me, and I was doing all the same stuff that you're doing, right? And I was going to find clients, and then I was doing the work, and then I would bring in contractors, and I was paying them and doing all this stuff, right? And what I found over time, and this isn't even accounting or finance related, it's just what I've identified over time is, and you mentioned before, is somebody might invent or have this fantastic product, and then they want to go produce it and sell it and be very successful. Well, what I found is, in order to get from that point, A, of inventing and having this great product, to then being very successful, there's a lot of education that goes along with that, as far as how to run, a successful business so that you continue to grow and scale and achieve the results. I've seen companies that, have been very successful on the sales side, but they don't have their arms around operations, they don't have their arms around finance, they don't have their arms around HR, and they basically, run out of money, and they, even though they're selling a lot, they go out of business, right? And so
Is
what
HR something y'all do as well?
we sometimes that falls on the desk of the accounting team. So yeah, we can do some of the basic HR activities if it's transactional, but if it's culture and people and all, hiring and all that stuff, that's not on our
Okay. I was just
um,
clarifying because we hadn't really mentioned it before.
yeah, yeah. But what I would say on business owner when they're, starting, if they have that mindset of growth, is know your business, and then start educate yourself in all aspects of your business, right? So um, what I found to be very successful in companies that are successful is, or what I see a lot of times is, somebody starts a company and they know how to build a house, right? And they say, okay, great, I can build a house. Now I'm going to hire some individuals to help me. And then as I grow, I'm going to hire a marketing firm. I'm going to hire a couple sales guys and let them do what they do and find more business and grow. And then I'm going to hire, someone in accounting or finance and let them do what they do. And then I'm going to hire, if they don't know what, if they don't have an understanding or are able to manage their sales team, manage their marketing department, manage their CFO, their accounting team, and know enough about how to create, know enough about those areas of their business. That's where I've seen companies really struggle because they think, oh, I can just hire a sales guy. Well, 9 times out of 10, you just hire a sales guy and let them go off. They're not going to be successful, right? Because nobody knows your business like you do, and that person needs to be managed, and you need to be understand what their activities are and what they're doing to ensure that they're being successful, right?
And is
And so
that a matter of just like being more hands-on than simply just hiring out? Just
yeah,
like being more um hands-on slash involved in what their process is going to be and why they came to the conclusion that they came to in terms
exactly,
of
yeah.
the
And so it's that
strategy they want to implement.
exactly, it's that shift from, I'm a guy that builds a house and I can build more houses, to that shift to, okay, now I'm a CEO. And what does the CEO have to do? They have to understand all aspects of the business, right? And if you don't, that's where you get hurt. And that's what I found a lot of cases is companies will waste a lot of money is, thinking they can just hire helping hands or hire people and the business will be successful. When you do that and you have people going all over the place and you're wasting a lot of money and there's no oversight, no collaboration, that becomes very challenging. So hire the experts, but then make sure you're involved in all aspects of the business to ensure continuity and success and collaboration. That's critical. And so where we come in is we're the expert, but we can't work successfully in a vacuum as well, right? So we need to work closely with the CEO, with the business owner to say, okay, hey, yeah, we're doing your numbers. Here's your numbers. But now let's talk about what that means. And let's talk about where we're going moving forward and how we're using these numbers to be successful. And so that I think is the biggest mind shift for individuals when they say, I'm going to start a business because I know I'm good at something versus then and taking that to scaling it to a 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20, million dollar business is that piece. And a lot of companies I've seen have brought in, maybe they get big enough where they that's not their passion. So they bring in a CEO and that is a good move, but it's also can be risky too. You have to know who you're bringing in to make sure you're successful there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a hired CEO to me is obviously companies do it, and I am not a big company like expert or whatever. But to
Yeah,
me, it seems hard to believe that anybody that you hedge or what is it, headhunt to be your CEO of your company would the likelihood of them having the same passion about your company seems to be zero. And that doesn't
yeah,
mean that they wouldn't be a good CEO and even lead you to success. But
yeah,
if you make birdhouses and you hire a CEO who used to run Pepsi, he
yeah,
probably doesn't give two craps about your birdhouses and that they're elegant and beautiful and sell for $49.99 at Target. He
yeah,
just wants the company to do well, and that there might be a disconnect there, like you said.
right.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's
Yeah, and
just
nobody is good as the owner. Nobody has the passion as the owner. And that's where a lot of frustrations happen, right? When you're up all night worrying about your business, and then you have an employee who clocks out at 5 o'clock or whenever, and they've forgotten about it. And you're thinking, hey, you know what? They didn't even get this done. What's going on here? And that's a challenge as you continue to grow. And you kind of have to get over the fact that nobody's going to have that passion ever about your business like you do as a
yeah.
business.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these parallels are similar in my world. If I don't keep an eye on the subs, corners will be cut. And at the end of the
Yep.
day, I have to deal with the client. And so it's the exact same thing. It's just at a much
Yep.
smaller, controllable scale. Um,
Exactly.
and don't get me wrong, I want to scale for the financial freedom and what money means, but I have definitely not scaled at certain times in certain ways
Mhm.
because I'm always concerned about the fact that, like, well, if I were to get that big, there'd have to be two of me, and which means I have to hire another me. And then what
Yep.
if him and I disagree on quality control? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, my my name and company. I mean, my company is literally my initials. So
Yep.
it is as much my reputation as any possible thing in this world is my reputation.
Right.
And I'm not prepared to let somebody else potentially ruin it.
Yep. And that's
So
the challenge is there is never going to be another you, right? And so
yeah,
then it's okay, how do I hire someone that is I can get as close to you as possible or me or whatever. And then as the company grows, it's building that the processes around how you how the company performs its services uh, or performs its work to ensure that success, right? Because what I've also seen in companies that grow is again, if there's no processes and you have everyone just kind of doing their own thing, doing whatever they think is best, then you lose control of what's really happening. And as we just talked about, nobody's going to have the passion that the business owner does. And so then the business owner is going to get frustrated because so and so is doing it this way, so and so is doing it that way. They don't have the passion or they don't care as much as the business owner does. And that's where the challenges come.
yeah, yeah. It seems it's a never ending fight of challenges to be a small
Yeah,
business owner. Yeah.
exactly.
Um, so I guess my next question is on that hiring side of trying to really find that person who's obviously there's no clone, but you got to find somebody close enough. Is that also So, because you mentioned that like HR is dealing with the culture, the hiring, the firing, and that's not really your side of things.
Mhm.
So you would help the company decide if and when to hire, but not help them with the hiring process.
Yeah, so we have clients that, as they grow, they maybe outgrow our model, right? Or they do need to hire somebody internally in one role, but we can still support them in other roles. And so
Okay.
we know when we're stretched, we know when it doesn't fit our model, and we'll make that recommendation that they do need to hire somebody in a full-time role, within accounting, let's call it, right? And so in that case, yeah, we can help with ensuring that they understand what the job description is. We can help with supporting some of the interviews. And we're not a recruiter, and we're not going to go out there, sorting through resumes and all that stuff. We can help with the process, but as far as the postings, the clients will do the posting. We'll help with the job description. We may help look at some resumes, but we're not going to lead that, like traditionally, like somebody in HR would or a recruiter would. But we absolutely would help to make sure that they got the right person in there that can perform the role effectively. On
What?
the accounting side, if they need to hire somebody in sales, then that's really not, we're not going to be part of that really.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is that level where you guys need to back away and they need to get somebody? Is it again a dollar amount or a company size amount or
It obviously depends. Usually what happens, the first thing is if we're doing everything, if as the company grows, the level of transactions may grow. And so the first thing we tend to recommend is that maybe they bring in somebody in-house to manage, invoicing, AR, collections, AP, et cetera, because that's more of a transactional role. They could probably get somebody at a lower per hour, hourly rate than what they're paying us. It makes sense to pay us if it's, let's call it 10 hours a week, and we can add value and the whole team and everything. But if they need somebody that gets up to 20, 30, 40 hours a week or full time, we'll make that suggestion. That in that case, then we can leverage their person, keep our costs more effective, but still manage the overall success of that accounting and financial environment at the controller, at the CFO level. As they continue to grow, again, if they need somebody in one role, specific role for more than 20, 30 hours a week, then it makes sense for them to hire. Usually we recommend start hiring from the bottom up versus a lot of companies think, well, I'm having issues, so I'll just hire a CFO, right? And then they want the CFO to do everything. And a good CFO should be focused on the strategic side of things, is also going to be more expensive. And you really don't want them doing bank recs, because if they are and they're willing to do that, they're not really a CFO anyway. And they're also not focusing on the strategic side.
so it sounds to me that if everything was working correctly and everything was successful, both on your side and your client's small business side, you are very much a stepping stone. Ideally, you want the company to start, grow to a point where you're needed, and
Yep.
then with your help, grow to a point where they need to get rid of you because they now need full-time people. And that I'm
Right.
not, and it could be,
Yeah.
5 years or 6 months or whatever
Yeah,
it may be.
exactly. I mean, our average client is 3+ years, and that's the goal, right? We want to work with growth-minded business owners who want to grow and expand and succeed, right? If a company is happy with where they're at and they've been the same for the last 10 years, they're going to see that our solution as a cost, right? And not, it's like, hey, you know what? We're doing what we're doing. We're happy with it. That's just an extra cost. We don't want to deal with it. If they're looking to grow, they need the sophistication that comes with what our team can provide to help them to get to that next level. Because now they're going to start having to have conversations with banks, with lenders, potentially with investors. And the more they grow, the more they succeed, and the more they want to grow, they're going to start providing their financial information to third parties like those banks, like even bonding companies. You're going to have to, if the work you're doing is bonded, you're going to have to provide financial information. So that is that becomes critical the more you grow, is making sure you have that confidence and you can gain that confidence from those third parties that look at your information.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's a very unique is kind of redundant. It's a unique, at least in my world, it's a unique company that wants to, wants you want to be hired, but you really very much are like, if we're doing our job right, you're firing us in 5 years. We want you to grow, and we want you to need to hire a full-time bookkeeper, a full-time accountant, and a full-time CFO, and then say goodbye to us. And we did our job, and everybody got paid, and your business is now twice as big as when we met. But that's a very interesting, it's to me, it's a very interesting concept, and I like to know that. Since we're running out of time, my last question that I wanted to ask you is AI jumping into your world from an analytic perspective, or are you guys just pushing that to the left?
Yeah, no, we want to be technology forward. So the simplest things is, we can leverage existing technologies for making sure that there's efficiencies in how our clients operate. Everything from invoicing to paying bills to financial reporting. But then the analysis side is getting there as well. And so, we not only do we want to give them numbers, we want to analyze the information within those numbers. And that's where AI is going to be having the most impactful, is going to be most impactful on what we do. Obviously, AI does help create efficiencies in how we do things behind the scenes, like bank reconciliations, expense coding, closing the books, and the monthly reporting and ongoing reporting. Obviously, that's behind the scenes, but the analysis side, which is how do we evaluate what's happening with the business, and versus how do we leverage that and leverage AI so that we'll get the initial narrative of what's happening, and then use our human brains to modify that to, based on the discussions we've had with the client. So it's definitely coming. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but it's still pretty in the infancy stages.
I got you. I know we're pressed for time, so we'll just last quick for listeners. It's what's your company name, and do you guys have like a website that people could check out?
Yeah, it's Signature Analytics, and it's signatureanalytics.com. It's pretty clear. You'll see in the drop down of industries that we service, construction is one of them. Click on that. You can reach out to us directly through there. Pretty straightforward. We'll respond right away. We service clients all over the country, and we'd love to talk to anyone that has any questions.
That's awesome. I think it's an amazing service that you've developed and are providing. And thanks so much for stopping by and telling your story. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Corbett.
All right, you have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.